She has honed her skills. She has honed her skills in her private practice, working with multiple physicians in their offices, and also was, amazingly enough, part of the design team to open and operate the Center of Integrative Medicine at Ohio State University, the Ohio State University.
That's right, Missy. You got to get there right.
It is the Ohio State University. We want to make sure we. So she has taught energy medicine courses nationally and internationally. She's developed a multidisciplinary program called the 5 Pillars of Health. And this approach supports emotional, mental, and physical health. And once learned, you can carry these 5 pillars with you throughout your lifetime. It gives you a virtual tool bag to have with you wherever you go. She's in the process of putting the 5 Pillars of Health into book form. Leesa has been a presenter at a TEDx talk program in was Dayton, Ohio, I believe.
Yeah, down in that area.
And has done previous life lectures for us on some other program or some other areas in which she has expertise. So tonight she's going to talk to us about pelvic floor health, and these are not your mama's kegels. So go ahead, Leesa.
Can you see it? No? Is it coming up? Tell me if it's blurry because I can't see.
It's a little blurry.
Ah, shoot. Well, darn. When a good plan doesn't come out.
Yes. Okay. So while you, that's looking pretty good right there, actually. So while you're working on that, let me go ahead and say that West Virginia Wellness is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we are on a mission to help educate folks about complementary, holistic, alternative, and integrative medicine. We do not offer medical advice. These are for entertainment, enlightenment, and to serve curiosity. So we encourage you to seek qualified professional help if you should need it for anything. But get your educating, learn what you can here. So, all right, go ahead, Leesa.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to see you too. I miss your face.
Likewise.
We'll see each other soon. So this is very informal. If you have any questions, please just speak up and ask. We'll stop. I'm using a PowerPoint slide. It does have some graphic pelvic floor slides in there. Some of them are, well, all of them, I guess. I think I took out the actual slides that I have from a cadaver, but they're drawings and stuff. So if you're uncomfortable with that, please just say move on. You know, we'll just pass right through it. I also will be using, I have Girdle Myrtle here that I use as my pelvic floor model. And she's got a lot of her parts and pieces that I know I don't still have some of these, but just to give you an idea, I always found out that if I passed this around, so typically this is a half day to a full day workshop. And I like to use my props and pass this stuff around because this is actually a normal size woman's pelvis. And it's not real, but it is supposed to be fairly anatomically correct for a normal size woman. And I don't think that people are intuitive to some of the things that we'll talk about in here. So anyhow, and again, please don't think that, oh, I don't want to be the one that's squeamish about this. Just say move on and I'll do it. So we'll go ahead and start screen sharing. I know Kathy and I are uber weirdos when it comes to anatomy. So everybody doesn't have that same.
Kristen is right there with us.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm here.
Now this, again, this slide was, or this PowerPoint presentation was intended for me to be standing there doing this. So I haven't done it with a screen share, and it does have some animation to it. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to go. So that was what I was trying to show you earlier, was because I have this book that's of the same, maybe that shows it a little bit of the same thing. But anyhow, yes, it's a comprehensive or multidisciplinary approach to pelvic floor self-care. And why do I call it Not Your Mama's Kegels? See, I'm clicking this and it's not moving. Jennifer and I did this earlier and I finally got it to go, but I don't know how. Well, anyhow, if I have to wing it, I will.
Leesa, does it slide? Did you slide the slides?
Not sliding. You know what I can try to do, if you gals don't mind giving me a moment, I will. I have a clicker. I wonder if I connect my clicker, if that works. Typically I use my clicker, but I don't know why it would matter. It worked, didn't it, Jennifer, when we tried it earlier? Well, I can't even get that thing in there. I'm gonna have to rearrange everything. I had to take my video and unplug it, so wait a second. Okay, let's see if that comes back up. If it doesn't, you'll just get to look at my pre-COVID hair. I apologize, ladies. Technology works when it works. Nope. Well, Jennifer, do you have any thoughts?
I'm not sure, honestly. You don't have like a PowerPoint boxes at the side of your screen?
Well, if I did that, I guess I could, we could do that. Let's see if that, whoops, I just escaped the whole thing. Screen sharing has stopped, okay. Okay, let's try this again. Can you all see that?
Ah, yes.
Is that okay? All right, sorry about that. We'll just do it this way. That was a good call. Thank you, Jennifer.
Another
So-
option, hi, this is Nancy. Another option might be to click on slideshow up above.
Yeah,
I don't know if that would make a difference.
well, that's where I had it initially.
okay.
But maybe I need
I'll
to
stay
do
out of it and you can just click on your slides on the left and we'll get to learn.
Yeah,
that-
you know what? How about if we do a quick introduction and I will play with this while I'm listening and I'll see, maybe I just needed to start it from the beginning and after the thing, I don't know. But so Kristen, you're here. Tell me a little bit about you.
A registered nurse, licensed massage therapist, live out on a farm. Have two boys and 13 and 17, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Pretty much it.
okay. Do you work
My life.
locally? Are you in West Virginia?
Yeah, I live in West Virginia, but I work in Pennsylvania,
Okay, so like Little Washington area?
Pittsburgh, Washington, all over.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm an agency nurse. I go everywhere.
Oh, okay. I see. That's awesome. And Nancy, how about you?
Hi, I'm Nancy Lubin. I'm an aromatherapist. I'm a colleague of Marnie Reben. And I live in Maine.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I thought, and I have actually a friend who's done a lot of pelvic floor work with the Feldenkrais practice. And I'm always curious about this because why wouldn't one be if one were female, I think.
What place is it that she's done work with?
She uses the Feldenkrais method.
Oh, the
or-
Feldenkrais. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, she put out a CD on pelvic floor exercises with Feldenkrais. It was really great.
Yeah,
So
it is.
it's always, anyway, so that's who I am. I'm an aromatherapist and a life coach, actually.
Well, welcome. And that's
So,
awesome that you're coming.
Happy to be
in.
here.
Okay.
And not squeamish. Since I'm the only one who's not a nurse here, just FYI, not squeamish.
Well, that's good to know. Okay. So Not Your Mama's Kegels, it's a self-guide for your pelvic floor. So a little bit about me, Kathy, KJ already said, I was telling Jennifer earlier that when I first met you, I met you under the name of Kathy, and that just, so I toggle back and forth between Kathy and KJ. So I'll tell you a little bit about what this course has to offer. We're going to go a little bit into the theory of it, and then I hope I can just step back away from my chair a little bit and we can do some practical, because what I'd like to have is for you gals to be able to walk away from this evening and be able to actually do the pelvic floor exercise that we have. So just like KJ was saying earlier, I'm also not a doctor. I do not diagnose. I do not prescribe anything. Always, always contact your medical care professional. So I am also a licensed massage therapist, and I am certified as a craniosacral and somatoemotional therapist. And I have a whole plethora of energy medicine and stuff. It's just very curious to me. So here are some of those slides that I was talking about. This was actually one of my students that drew this. And this is if we were cutting off the top of our body and looking down into the pelvis. So as if we were looking down inside like this, and it doesn't have the ovaries or the fallopian tubes. And I love these pictures because this one over here of, it kind of reminded me of a lotus flower. And that's basically what our pelvic floor muscles is, because it's just got layers and layers of connective tissue. Oops, went too fast on me. This is also a drawing. It was not a student of mine, but it was in I used to be part of a cadaver lab. We owned a cadaver lab. And this was a student that was in one of the courses that we offered. And so anyhow, I just kind of borrowed that, because what we're looking at back here would be the uterus and the ovaries, the fallopian tubes. This would be your bladder. And then this around here is some musculature. When you're looking here, this is the spongy bone of the pelvis, of the hip. And then, of course, down in here would be at the pelvic floor. This picture down here is of a tree where I used to teach in Costa Rica. And I was actually in the middle of this tree looking up. And when I was looking up in there, all I could see was a pelvic floor. So you know you have issues when you're traveling, and everywhere in nature you're seeing body parts. So, but that's why it really is. It opens like a lotus flower. It's all of these integral parts like a matrix. So it is the foundation of our body. And I like to call it the soul of our anatomy. So much happens inside that bowl. So basically our anatomy is that we are just bowls, that would be our pelvic floor, and domes, and bowls and domes. And this is all the way up our body, but it's also penetrated through with our central nervous system. And then of course, some structural parts like the bones and stuff that we have. So this is not just a women's issue. Most people think that it is. And would you believe that it can help with TMJ, with headaches, and with eyesight? I mean, when I started learning about this, that kind of blew me away. Oh, sorry about that. But it is also for men too, because men have pelvic bowls, we don't think about that. And it is kind of intuitive that it helps with backache and hip pain and that kind of stuff. But the best part of this is, like I'm trying to say, everybody has one. It's not just a woman's issue. We probably all know somebody that's had some back problems. I keep looking over here because that's where I'm seeing your faces. I need to look up here, don't I? We probably all know somebody who has had some back problems or hip or knee, even plantar fasciitis. TMJ is a big one. There's so much with TMJ that happens in our legs, in our feet, but absolutely in our pelvic bowl and our eyesights that change. And again, that just kind of blew me away. And of course, I think that we would also consider that incontinence or frequent urination, prolapsed uterus, rectocele, cystocele, hemorrhoids, and even erectile dysfunction. So is everyone familiar with what a rectocele and a cystocele is?
I don't know those terms.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't
So-
you go ahead and explain that, please?
So a rectocele is when your pelvic bowl begins to penetrate or herniate out the backside. And so that would be your rectum that's doing that. And a cystocele is when the anterior part, or maybe where the bladder and stuff, starts to penetrate through the pelvic bowl. And it doesn't necessarily break open like a hernia can in the abdominal area. It can do that, but it just gets like a little pouch that's down in there. So
Thank
a
you.
lot of times when people have pelvic bowl weaknesses, pelvic floor specifically weaknesses, and they have had chronic constipation or something like that, that fecal matter will sit and then it will start to penetrate through because of the pressure that we're putting on it. Does that make sense? Okay. So some causes can be surgery, constipation, like I mentioned. Childbirth's a big one. For a long time, everybody thought that incontinence and, pelvic bowl issues and that kind of stuff would only be for older women. And that's not true. I have worked, actually what got me started on doing this was I had a midwifery group approach me and ask me if I would write a program for them and their patients. And so I used to teach the midwives this course, and then they would know how to work with their patients. Shoes is a big issue. Who has an idea as to why shoes would be a big issue?
Alignment.
Alignment, okay. Any other thoughts? So our feet, if you're just in your feet, do you have an elevation in the heels? So we don't, do we? So every few inches, well, not even inches, every few millimeters that we lift up with our shoes in just one direction, that causes a tilt in our body. I can't do this sitting down. So that causes us to tilt, to lean forward a little bit. And then KJ, I know that you know about how heavy our head gets with that forward head posture and stuff that we're doing. So as we lean forward, when we're wearing high-heeled shoes, anything that isn't ergonomically correct or barefoot. And I know a lot of doctors these days will tell you that being barefoot's just the wrong thing to do, but I kind of lean toward, if nature made us, then nature probably was a little bit smarter than us, but that's just my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to diagnose, prescribe, sway. I'm just giving you the opinions that I have. Furniture. Why do you think furniture would have anything to do with it?
Again, alignment and changing your pelvic tilt.
Yeah, and why would that be?
Well, when you've got muscles that are supposed to be aligned like this, and if you tilt that differently, then you're going to mess up that alignment, and that causes dysfunction of the muscles.
Yeah.
And the thing
So
about the head, the forward head posture, just so folks will have an idea, for every inch forward your head is off of neutral, you are adding 10 pounds of pressure onto the spine.
yeah, isn't that crazy? So with the furniture, it's how soft it is. We're actually better off to sit on more firm or to sit out, because when we're sitting on something soft, what do? It's exactly what we all do. I mean, I'm guilty of it and I know better. And when we're doing that, then that's doing what to everybody. Kind of do that for me. No matter where you're sitting, just kind of slouch forward a little bit and then look at your anterior posture and tell me what you're noticing. Just kind of roll your shoulders and slouch a little bit. So Nancy, if you gals don't mind, I'll just kind of call on you since we're just the 5 of us. So what are you noticing when you do that with the anterior surface of your body?
Well, it definitely tilts up.
Yeah. Can you breathe as well?
Well, no, because I'm collapsed in the middle.
Exactly. How about you, Kristen? What happens to the abdominal area?
But you feel a bunch of pressure there.
You do, and it's because we don't have the space any longer for our small intestine and then for our large intestine. So our small intestine is where all of the nutrients and stuff get penetrated through and where our body is sucking up all of the yummies from the good food that we're eating. And then the large intestine is, I call it the poop chute, because it's just this long tube that takes care of our fecal matter and then comes out. When we are sitting like this, we're not going to get the nutrition that we should be getting from the food that we're eating. And it's not going to help us with elimination. So we're going to get a buildup of toxins and stuff. And then the last one that I have up here is attitude. So talk to me about attitude. What do you think attitude has to do with any of this?
Well, posture. Posture is a function of attitude.
It absolutely is. Talk a little bit more about that, Jennifer.
About attitude?
About the posture and how that's related to attitude.
Well, if you don't have a real good, I mean, your posture is part of your attitude. You could tell when somebody has a good or bad attitude by just the way they look.
Yeah. So how is that? Show us something that would be a good, a positive attitude versus a negative. What do you think that would be?
Sitting
What
up
body
straight,
language?
smiling. It's you're welcoming.
Yeah. So we typically are sitting up a little bit.
Mhm.
We're a little bit more lofty. Yeah.
We're breathing better. If you're sitting more squarely, you're breathing better.
So much better. Our heart doesn't have to work so hard. Our lungs don't have to work so hard. Our neck doesn't have to work so hard. And right back here in the base of our skull, this is where our nerves or cranial nerves are coming out into the whole body. And it's just like deep here and here is where our moods and stuff are at, like right in the center of us. And so if you draw a straight line, or if we had a plumb line and we could just go through the center of our head, we're going to go straight down into the pelvic floor, and it would be right out through the vagina. So that's why it's helpful with attitudes, or it can help modify our attitude. So here's another picture just to give you an idea. And again, that would be kind of cutting off the front part as well as looking down into the bowl. So I want you to really pay attention to this. Do you know what this bone is?
That is the sacrum.
It is. And then we have this muscle that's coming off of that. And I'm just not even going to talk about the names of the muscles because we don't care here.
Right.
And we've got this layer of muscle, and then here's another layer of muscle, and then doggone it, if there isn't like 2 more layers of muscles over here. And then way down in here, we have another layer. So if you go back to those pictures that I originally had of the flower, and if you look up into that tree that I was talking about in Costa Rica, nature replicates itself all the time. And you can kind of see how that does. Also, I'd like you to take note of this ball and socket that we have. And this is where people break their hips. So it usually is right in here if you get a hip break. But when people have arthritis and stuff in their hip, it's here. And can you see that there's just this thin piece of bone and another couple of different muscles that are in there. And then is the pelvic bowl muscles. So you can see how if this is wonky, if it's tilted a little bit in any of these directions. So if we're forward, this is called like a hemipelvis, or if we're this way, and sometimes we even get kind of twisted. I mean, our bodies can do all kinds of things, and it's often related to the shoes that we choose and the seats that we choose. So I would encourage you to get some good ergonomic flat shoes or go barefoot. And then I'd really encourage you to think about where you're sitting and for how long. Maybe after this workshop tonight, what we can do is when you go to sit down and chill out, just kind of look at your furniture that you're sitting in and recognize how you slump, or I do, I know I do. So part of what our pelvic floor does is it supports us. So it's supporting all of these organs that's in here, right? It can support a growing fetus. It can support the extra weight that we might be carrying. It's also a passage. And so it is a passage for childbirth. It's a passage for elimination, like I mentioned, for the poop chute. And it's also for intercourse. And a lot of people haven't really thought about intercourse. And I'm going to be a little graphic here, ladies. So do you know what kind of static pressure happens when we have this going on with us? I mean, there is so much static pressure that is hitting the pelvic. So this is the bottom of us that's hitting us. And if you think about the different positions that we're getting in, you know, usually we're splayed, not always, but you got to think about all of these different things that happens to our pelvic floor. So it supports our organs, and that's a huge job. I mean, it really is. So the this right here is pelvic floor muscles. It's just an abbreviation that I use. So our pelvic floor muscles need to be strong, and they need to be flexible, and they have to move how we move. So when you think about it, every time that we take a step, this whole area is moving, right? Every time that we are just standing and we're just, so our whole pelvic floor has to move. And we found out that that's a foundation for us. So it needs to be strong, but it also needs to be flexible. So it's kind of like a trampoline, because it has to have that elasticity, that movability for when we're taking steps, when we're walking like this, when we are eliminating. You know, there's going to be some pressure that happens on our pelvic floor during that elimination. So this pressure happens when we're having a vaginal childbirth, during intercourse, all of that kind of stuff. So does anybody have any questions about any of that?
I have one thing to add,
Yeah,
if I may.
please.
I had a really interesting experience when you're talking about pelvic floor and hip joints.
Yes.
I moved from my Victorian to my parents' a single floor house to take care of my parents, and experienced the most excruciating hip pain. It took me the longest time to figure it out, but I had gone from running up and down the stairs, 18 steps, you know, all the time in my own home, where my studio was also on 2 floors. So just to say that without that exercise of going up and down the stairs, I obviously changed my alignment enough so that I actually inflamed my hip.
Yeah.
And when I went back to my house to actually do some moving, the pain went away.
Ah,
So when you say consider furniture, I would say also consider whatever your daily exercise routine is, because it is definitely supporting you.
for sure. And it's that muscle memory that we have too. So repetitive strain disorder kind of thing. So yeah, thank you for sharing, because all of these practical life situations is how we can really relate to then what those of us that are in academia are trying to share. So it needs to allow for more space, such as if you have a full stomach or if you have a full bowel. A lot of physicians, well, I've heard them anyhow, when I've worked in the doctor's offices, I've heard them tell their patients that it's very normal if they only have a bowel movement once a week. I mean, whatever happens to all of the rest of that food that we're putting into our body, it just blows my mind. And I've even queried them. I'm like, why do you think that? Well, it's normal. No, it's not normal. When something comes in our mouth, something else should come out. They say that at any given time, an American person is carrying around 8 to 11 pounds of fecal matter. That's just crazy. So anyhow, and then also with the full uterus from pregnancy, and even then during our menses, because our uterus will swell, you know, we all had those cramps. We all know what all of that feels like. So any questions around any of that? Nope. Here's yet another picture. I told you I was going to have a bunch of pictures in here. And again, here's this very thin muscle that's right in here. Here's some more, another layer, another layer. This is actually where your bowel is coming down. And so this is the vaginal, and then this is from the bladder. This is the urethra. Oop. It's got a mind of its own, ladies. So where our organs sit and the passage openings. So this is another picture of, only this is giving some really good muscle structure on the inside of our pelvis. So it would be right in here that these muscles are at. And then these muscles back here. I call these the ego muscles because they think that they need to be a part of every movement that the back and the body does. So our pelvic floor muscles are a large part of the system for balance, and they help us to breathe. And we've already gone over some of those reasons that they help us to breathe. So along with the abdominal muscles and our diaphragm. So do you know where our respiratory diaphragm is? Nancy and Jennifer, you two are the ones who haven't had the anatomy. Do you know about our respiratory diaphragm?
As opposed to any other diaphragm? I mean, I know where this rib cage diaphragm is.
Right, the rib cage diaphragm. And do you know that it's a thin muscle and it goes all the way around?
Yeah, my training included some basic anatomy and physiology.
Awesome, awesome. And so again, our pelvic bowl is supposed to be like a trampoline, and so should our diaphragm. Because what happens here with our diaphragm is that when our lungs are sitting here, and when we're taking a deep breath, our lungs are filling up and our diaphragm goes down. And then our diaphragm comes up to express the air out. So that's why it's really helpful for us to breathe. And we have to have that pelvic bowl because it's all attached along the spine. And when we get into the practical part of this, KJ, if I go too long, you just need to cut me off, okay? Or tell me to speed it up.
Okay.
Because I told you I could talk forever. I'm sorry. So how we address them is through awareness. So if you take nothing else out of here tonight, is my tagline, which is awareness allows choice. And that's in everything we do in the world. So without awareness, then we don't have the opportunity to make a choice. So we're going to have awareness. We are going to have being present. We're going to have a physical awareness, a mental awareness. We're going to be present, and then we're going to do some visualization. And then we're going to do the exercise. So this is where we get to start practicing what I like to call not your mama's Kegels. Oh, so we're talking then about, part of my program is based on the acronym PRANA. And it's 5 pillars of health. And does anybody know what the true definition of prana is?
Breath. I would breath.
So
Well,
yes, it is.
force.
It's actually called a life-giving force. And so that's what I want to offer with my 5 pillars of health, is a life-giving force. And that is positive thoughts, rest, align. Align is with your posture and with your purpose in life. PRA, I forgot where is that in, nutrition, and then action. So PRANA, posture, nutrition, posture, rest, align with your purpose and with your posture, nutrition, and then taking action. And so that's what all of this is. We're going to have awareness with our mental awareness. So what are we thinking? Being present. We're going to visualize. We're going to visualize the exercise. We're going to talk a little bit about, if we have time, diet and exercise and sleep. So from your seat, I want you to be able to do these. I want you to find your bony landmarks. So you'll need to do this in order to do this practice to protect your pelvic floor if you want to do this. So you want both feet on the floor, and we want to do that because we want to get good ergonomics, right? So if you could see where I'm sitting and how I'm sitting, I am on the edge of my office chair, right? I can't get it to not be blurry when I keep trying to do these things. But anyhow, I'm sitting out on the edge of it. So you don't have to be quite that far out, but I do that because that's how I can sit up straight. It's just more comfortable for me. So the next thing is that I want you to find the top of your hip bones. So you'll move down your waist until you hit right at the top of the hip bones. And you'll feel that right in here. Everybody got that? Yeah?
Yep.
You guys are all too quiet. I'm not used to this. I'm used to a very boisterous and you know, people laugh and talk about this stuff. So I also want you to find your sits bones. So it's SITZ, and that's what you're supposed to sit on. So it's under here. So you kind of lift a cheek and find that bone that's underneath there. So why do we want to sit on that? If you look at it, you can see that it's kind of got a curve, and that's for us to be able to sit and rock. It's also right here is the ball and socket joint. I don't think that's intuitive to most people, that your actual hip ball and socket, where the leg bone comes in like this, I guess like that, is above the pubic symphysis. And the pubic symphysis is when you're coming down in from your belly button, and that first bone that you hit, that's what this is. So does everybody have your sits bone?
Mhm.
Yep.
And then I want you to find the end of your tailbone. It's called the coccyx. So we looked earlier in that picture and we talked that this was the sacrum, and then the tailbone is right there. So feel that. You got that?
Yep.
Okay. So again, we're going to find that pubic symphysis. So you just run your hand down from your belly button, and it's right at the top of that bone. That's an important landmark to have. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Okie dokie. And then I want you to find the lower tip of your sternum. So this is the sternum. right? And the lower tip of it is right here. And it's called the xiphoid process. You probably know that, Jennifer, also from your breathing and stuff from doing music. Yes? No?
Well, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
since I've had an enemy, so.
Oh, that's okay. So anyhow, this is the sternum and this is the xiphoid process. And now I want you to put your tongue as far back on the roof of the mouth as you can and feel where that soft palate is at. All the way back. Great. And now you're going to touch the top of your head and just above the head. There, perfect. So those are all of our landmarks. So if you want to go over those again, we're going to go over it 4 or 5 different times. So if you didn't get them all, that's not a worry. So we're also going to talk about a little bit about the energy medicine part of this, which is chakras. Is everybody somewhat familiar with a chakra?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be on a Zoom call and I'm happily here laughing with you.
So
Just
I'm getting some feedback. It sounds like from a TV show or something. Can everybody else hear that? No?
Yeah, I'm picking that up.
Hey, Irene, can you mute?
I was talking and it wrote everything I was talking to the message I was gonna send. Okay. On WhatsApp.
It's
And thank God.
oh, somebody's playing pool.
I was just-
Irene, can you mute?
But it had everything that I said. Zoom on there. I was not.
Let's just do the best that we can.
Pretty brilliant.
So
Was, yeah.
because I really can't hear anything other than the talking, everybody, if you can hear me, just kind of nod if you're familiar with chakras. Yeah, everybody kind of is. All right, good, good. So you can kind of read this. The root chakra is at the very bottom. It's kind of just below where we were just touching our coccyx. So what that affects is our adrenal glands, our kidneys, and some of our spine. Our second chakra then is part of our sexual functions, our creativity, our attitudes and relationships. The third is our power center. It's pancreas, liver, spleen, gallbladder, some of the stomach, and some of our nervous system. The fourth one is the thymus. And of course, it's going to have the heart, and you would think that it would have the blood and circulation and our immune system as part of that. And the fifth is the thyroid. It's got the lungs, the vocal cords, our bronchial, and it's part of our metabolism. Then we have our sixth, which is part of our lower brain, our nervous system, our ears, our nose, our left eye. And then we've got our seventh, which is if you kind of went straight back from your finger and straight down from the top of the head, it's where the pineal gland, it's your upper brain, and it's your right eye connection. So what we want to do now, this is part of the exercise, all right? So if you're sitting in that ergonomic position, I want you to try and squeeze your pelvic floor muscles, and as if you were going to stop the flow of urine. And if you feel like you've got a pretty decent sense of that, just go ahead and nod and we'll move on. Okay. And then what happens to your breath? So go ahead and squeeze your muscles again. And now pay attention to your lungs. So this is how, when we're doing our pelvic floor and we've got good strength and tone within our pelvic floor, it can help us to breathe. So you notice that most of us, our breath stops when we do that. And now go ahead and squeeze those pelvic floor muscles again and notice where your back muscles, see how they feel. And then we're also going to feel your chest. Notice that. Notice your shoulders. Tell me what you're feeling on the bottom of your feet. One person, just speak up. What do you notice? The bottom of your feet. So squeeze your pelvic floor muscles. And what do you notice with your feet? Do your toes crunch in? Do your arch goes up? Does your arch go up? You're like my West Virginia, does your arch? Sorry.
No.
So yes, no, did anybody feel that?
Mine is not.
Yours is not? Anybody else? No, I see Kristen shaking no.
No.
I could feel a little tension in that kind of plantar space, but
Yes.
not a lot, not as much as perhaps it would be good if I could, right?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, this is why having good shoes has a lot to do with our pelvic floor health. So I'm just trying to connect the dots of everything that I quickly passed through. Now try to stay relaxed everywhere else. So close your eyes and try to stay relaxed while you squeeze your pelvic floor muscles. And notice if you have any awareness anywhere in the body of tension, and where might that be? So I want you to check your mouth. I want you to check your eyes. Yeah,
I clench my jaw.
your jaw.
Yep.
Yep. Your
Clenching it up.
shoulders, your back. How about your thighs? Do you notice any tension, especially on the inner thighs?
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing how all of these pelvic floor muscles are related to all of these other things. So our mental awareness, if you're really focused without awareness, you're going to tense your body up. And that's the difference between tension and tone. Does everybody have, yeah, that animation. Does everybody have a good understanding of the definition between tension and tone?
Mhm.
Yeah, just tell me, what is it?
Well, tension is uncomfortable, tightness. Tone is properly firmed and functioning muscles.
Yeah, exactly. So I think of gum, a stick of gum. So tension is when we take the stick of gum out of the wrapper and we want to share it, it breaks. So that's tension. It only can go so far and then it breaks. Tone is after we've chewed it and somebody wants to share with us, and we can go like that. So it's got that trampoline like feeling in it. Okay. So yeah, we just went over that. Okay, so with our breath, so you want to bring your attention again back to the pelvic floor, and you want to notice if they're tight. And then you notice your jaw. I don't know who it was that said jaw, but whoever said that, see if you can get those to relax. Between our eyebrows, that gets real tense. You know, when we're learning something new, we tend to lean into it regardless as to what it is, you know, or if we're really listening to somebody, if somebody's got a good story that they're sharing, or somebody needs your support with something, we just tend to lean in. And when we do that, of course, we're coming out of a good ergonomic posture, but we're creating a lot of tension in our muscles of our eyes. So we have 6 eye muscles that allow us to do all of these different muscle movements. And they need to be relaxed and stretched, also worked out. So now we're going into being present. So this is, you want both feet on the ground. You want to wiggle your toes, feel your bottom in the chair. So all being present means, or if you've heard people use the terminology of being grounded, all that means is to be aware of where your body is in space right now. And so go ahead. Was somebody going to say something? No? So when we're noticing our body, where we're sitting, or we're wiggling our toes, we've got both of our feet on the ground, it brings us into the present moment. And then I want you to close your eyes and take a nice, full, deep breath. And just allow yourself to listen to my voice and to just be present. That's awesome. Now, if you want to take a quick peek and look at these pelvic floor muscles again, look at this pelvic bowl. We're going to start utilizing all of those bony landmarks that we went over just a few slides ago. Oops. So this is the sacrum, and this is the coccyx, that tip back here where our bottom is. And you can see that one of those muscles wraps around kind of like a sling. And this is our rectum. And this is where our bowel movements come out. So this is a muscle, and the tension pulls this way. So that's a visual for you. This is another one. This is, again, just that cutaway. But what I'd like for you to notice is this is the inside muscles are inside of our thigh, like, I don't know if you guys can see, like right in here. But I want you to notice where they attach. So this is a bone, that little white line that you see right there. And they come all the way up here and attach. And one of these muscles comes up and comes around our clitoris. So one of the things that I've heard from so many of the gals that I've worked with is that your orgasms will be so much more profound. And I can attest to that. It's wonderful. It's just a gift from God when you know that you are in a healthier space in your body, but then you get an extra little bit of enjoyment out of it. So this is the difference then between a woman's body and a man's body. So right here, this is where we're going to tie in how a guy can end up with erectile dysfunction. So what we know about how a penis gets erected is that it's from the blood flow that happens, right? Well, if you have very tense muscles around and through here, you're not going to get the proper blood flow. And some of the things that happen and cause that is the way that our pelvis sits. So if a gentleman loves reclining back in his recliner all of the time, is he sitting on his sits bone, or what's he sitting on? So he's sitting on his sacrum. And just in front of the sacrum, even though this is a female, their anatomy is kind of the same on the inside. That's where their penis is at. So they're not getting the proper blood flow. And if they do that time after time after time, because a lot of guys will come home and sit in their recliner and they're sitting back, and we do that too on the sofa or wherever we're sitting that's soft, then you are reducing a lot of the blood flow. You're changing the muscle structure in your back all the way up the spine. It's good to have good furniture to sit on. Any questions about any of that? No? Am I boring you? Did everybody go to sleep on me?
No.
Okay. You can
Cool.
unmute. So this is a visualization then. I want you to imagine the flesh on your hips sliding down your back. So I want you to imagine the flesh right in here sliding down your back. So if you can kind of visualize that, I always have to touch my body part. And if we were in the same room and I was standing in the room with you, I would be touching all of my parts and pieces, because it's how I learn. It's how my body, how my brain can connect with the body part that I need it to move. So you're visualizing that. And now imagine that your sacrum, so we'll pretend that my hand is a sacrum, is moving toward the pubic symphysis. And this would be the pubic symphysis up here. So again, this part of the pelvis is the pubic symphysis. And back here is the sacrum, the coccyx. And what we're doing is we're imagining that this bone, the sacrum, is moving in a joint way, because it does. It rocks back and forth. It can go this way. So it's swinging up on the inside and it's trying to meet that pubic symphysis. Can you visualize that for me?
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. And then while breathing in, imagine that your sits bones, remember these guys, are coming together like this. So they're folding in. So we have two different actions happening. First is the sacrum is swinging up to meet the pubic symphysis, and the sits bones are coming in together. So see if you could do that. So you imagine the flesh coming down your back, down your hips. The sacrum swings up to meet the pubic symphysis, and the sits bones are coming together. And you really want to have your feet on the floor, have a straight spine, and visualize. So now you want to visualize that your pelvic floor is coming up together like a fan that's folding into itself. So it's coming up like this. And it's the whole round, but it's coming up like this. And then you contract your whole abdominal area, the whole thing, as if you were putting a girdle on. And you can feel that tone all around. But where you're contracting it from is from the inside. So you're starting from the muscles that are way up in this area, and they're all coming together like a girdle. Are you gals with me?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. Now, again, you need to notice your breath. Notice where your chest is. Are you doing this? Are your shoulders slumping? Are they going like this because you're working hard? Just try to have a relaxed breath. It's awesome. So Kristen, it feels to me like you're doing a really good, I can't see your face. It's just a profile because you're dark.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm just saying that it feels to me like, even with the posture that you're in, and again, I couldn't really see you, but even with the posture that you're in, that you're getting some of those feelings. Is that correct?
Feeling
Are you-
pretty good.
Yeah.
Feels pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. And KJ, I'm pretty sure that you're doing this. How about you, Nancy? Are you doing good? Yes, thumbs up. And Jennifer? Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Can we move on? We're going to do this over and over and over again. So again, KJ, if you need me to stop at any time. So what we're going to do next is to inhale and imagine the center of a figure 8. And that's right. It's right down here. I didn't really go over that because I was trying to go quick, but there is this area makes a figure 8. So right in here, right at the perineum. So if you had a vaginal birth and maybe you tore or they did a episiotomy, that would have been right there. So does everybody have a good idea of this sense? And I'll stop this from moving. Yes? So you're coming up from that figure 8 on the inside as if there was a string, and it's lifting up at that figure 8. So this is all with intention, ladies. Yes, you'll have a physical movement, but you're not necessarily moving anything physically yet. So with your intention, you have a string on the inside of you and it's lifting up. Can you get that sense of what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you're lifting it from your sternum. Remember that xiphoid process that I pointed out that's right here? So if I had something that was just behind the sternum here and it's inside my body, it's lifting up from here and it's hanging kind of right here from the xiphoid process. And now we're going to move on up. So we've already done this where we've left it there for a few seconds. And now we are going to move it up from the roof of your mouth. So when you put your tongue back there on the roof of the mouth to where your soft palate attaches to the hard palate, that's in the center of our body, right? And we have a string that's continuing to hold us, to hold our pelvic floor. It's bringing it up. And this is intention. The important thing is what we do when we start learning this is that we relax our pelvic floor. We forget that we drop the muscles down the back, that we swung our sacrum up to meet our pubic symphysis, and that we allowed our sits bones to come in. And then this is what's being lifted with intention up the center of our body. All make sense?
Okay.
And then just breathe. We always have to stop and check our breath. We don't want to be restricted in our breath. We don't want to be holding our breath. We don't want to be breathing too quickly, just your normal breath. So now we're going to bring it up from the top of our head. So again, you're coming straight up through the center of your body. And if we had a string, our pelvic floor is just hanging from the top of our head. And now bring it up just a little bit further and come just a little bit above your head. Maybe you want to go 6 inches, maybe you want to go a foot, just somewhere up, and breathe. Every time I do this, I actually pretend that I'm pulling it up from the top of my head. And visualize that you're holding your pelvic floor muscles with that string right up through the center of your body. Now, I really want you to check your eyes. Are they straining right now? Because we are learning, and we just learned a little bit ago that when you're learning something new, your eyes get real tense because we focus, even if they're closed. Okay, how'd we do with that?
Very good.
So then we do the exact same thing in reverse. And it's almost as important to do the exhale slower or as slow as when we're doing the inhale. Or I shouldn't say the exhale, but when we're doing the relaxation, when we're bringing it back down. So we take it from above our head to the top of our head, to the soft palate, to the xiphoid process, down into the pelvic bowl again. And then you allow your sits bones to separate and your sacrum to come back. If you do this several times, and really get the sense of all of those different muscles, that whole matrix, that whole beautiful lotus that we have in there. When you get a really good sense of that, it's just, I don't know. I've had people give me all kinds of feedback on how it's helped with, they felt like they were losing weight. It was better than doing sit-ups. You know, we already talked about the intimacy and how that can be so beneficial. Of course, you're going to have better nutrition. You're going to have better elimination. And most likely you'll have better posture. So how are we doing on time?
Can we wrap it up in about, excuse me, about the next 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, so we won't go over the other parts of it, the diet and the exercise and all of those kinds of things, because I think that we're in a pretty healthy group, and we know that, you know, if you eat whole food, you're going to have better nutrition and eliminate, you're also going to sleep better and all that kind of stuff. But is there any questions about any of the stuff that we did? Did I go over it too quickly? Was it not thorough? Please just give me honest feedback. You're never going to hurt my feelings. The only thing that hurts my feelings is silence.
Well, I'll be noisy. I really like, I've done a lot of body study. I mean, I've done a lot of Feldenkrais. I've done a lot of other things, a lot of body oriented work. And I think that this is the first time that anyone's really connected the pelvic floor to, you know, way up in the body. This has been really instructive.
Were you able to feel it though, Nancy? I mean, logically, cognitively, you were able to connect it, but physically, were you able to connect it?
A bit, you know, and I mean, I will work on it. I think I felt like I was holding my breath a little too much.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, how do I, you know, kind of breathe in, you know, the tension versus tone, you know, in that situation, because I was kind of so focused. But I think with some practice, it will be more natural. As with all things body, you have to learn them and get to the point where they're part of you, the way you move.
So I would suggest that if you could do this just 3 things a day, I'm going to buzz through here real quick. If you could just do this 3 things 3 times a day, just that's all. And you'll be hopefully amazed at what we got from that, you know, how well it helps you. I'm going to stop the screen share unless, is there any part of the slides that anybody wants to go back over? Nope.
Yeah, this was recorded and the replay will be available there will be a link to the replay available on the West Virginia Wellness Incorporated Facebook page in a couple of days. And we'll try to send out an email with that link for you to watch the replay, and for those who were not able to join us this evening, like your friend Marnie, Nancy. So we're glad you're here this evening. Cyrene, welcome. We're glad to have you here. Nancy, Beth, who is, you know, has joined us as well earlier and is off camera, is also a Feldenkrais instructor.
Oh,
Great.
So she's one of our board members for West Virginia Wellness, and we're pleased to have her. So
I apologize. I didn't realize that we had others join us. It wasn't showing up on my feed, so I didn't include them when I was talking about stuff. So I really apologize.
well, it's all right. I'm sure things are fine. You know, it's okay. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Are there any other questions for Leesa?
Yes, I have one.
Okay.
What does she think of those buzz shorts, those, you know, shorts for Kegels and stuff? And even Thrive and Wheeling has a special like thing that they put on their clients that is supposed to help them do the Kegels. What does she think of those?
Well, so I really don't know anything about them to be able to speak intelligently. The visual that I got was KJ and I probably remember, and maybe you even, Nancy, our grandmothers having that belt thing that you would shake like this to try and help you to lose weight and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The program that I have and everything that I know about anatomy and physiology, there's not an easy quick fix to it. And this program that I've developed, the Not Your Mama's Kegels, because it's not your mama's Kegels. Too often when we're doing Kegel muscle or Kegel exercises, so there are physical therapists and doctors that are pelvic floor people, right? And when they test your pelvic floor, they often will, well, they used to insert 3 fingers or 2 fingers, and they would tell you to squeeze. So
Right.
tell me, since we know the difference between tension and tone, if you're real tense in your pelvic floor and something gets inserted and they tell you to squeeze, will they feel much? Because you're already so tense, you're not going to really have that mobility, that elasticity that we were talking about. And so oftentimes what science has shown us is that too many of us, particularly in today's world, are living with too much tension in our entire body, not just our pelvic floor. And like I mentioned before, it has to do with the furniture that we sit on, with our shoes that we wear, with the, you know, the way that we hold our jaws. When you're tense here, you're tense down there too. And so it's not your mama's Kegels because most people can't feel the muscles to do them because they're already too tight. So what I propose is to learn the motion of the body. So our sacrum flows, our sacrum rocks, to get the elasticity and the motion back into our sits bones, because our sits bones should come in. They breathe with our breath. So I want this full connectivity of our body. I want us to be able to feel the muscles around our abdominal area and to know that we have a connectivity from our xiphoid process all the way up to our soft palate, all the way up to where our skull is attached, where the soft tissue is attached in our skull. And then above, and that above thing has to do with those chakras and stuff that I was talking about earlier. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
So I don't know about the belt. I almost feel like it's a gimmick, and I'm not a gimmick gal. I mean, I'm a go walking exercise girl. I do have some weights that I have on a yoga mat. Oh, you can't see back there because I got it. Welcome to my office, but it's also an exercise room. So, thank you for that question. Anybody else? Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank
It's
you.
been wonderful, fabulous to see you again. And hopefully we'll be able to connect in person soon.
We will.
But this was really fascinating, so interesting and so informative. And I'm sure we're all going to find it quite helpful. And maybe one day we'll be able to have you come in person and do the whole shebang for us instead of this little abridged version.
Well,
Right.
we all have to agree that if we do, we're not going to just sit there, because if it's always audience participation if I'm in the room, because I don't like being the center of attention.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
I
Thank
see one
you.
of the gals down there that I met. That KJ, isn't this who we went to dinner with after one of our things in West Virginia? And doesn't she live across the river and was working on water stuff? There was bad water.
Oh, no, that was Catherine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's now the mayor of St. Clairsville, and
Oh, I was going to say she was going to run for political office, but I wasn't
Yes.
sure if that was.
yes, she ran for office, was elected mayor of St. Clairsville, and she's doing some really, really good things there. So I'll have to fill you in later.
Okay, I love it.
I
See
think we
you.
can stop
Bye. It was so nice
recording
to
now,
meet
so,
everybody.
okay, hang
Bye-bye.
on for just a minute, will you, Lisa,
Oh,
please?
sure.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Stop the recording, Jennifer.